Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Fanatic, and I'm back with another video. So today, I'm going to be posting a lot of videos, maybe 3, maybe 4. I'm going to be doing that today, tomorrow, and Friday, maybe even Saturday. You know, I severely miscalculated how I was going to plan out these 2 weeks, and I started off really late. So it's kind of like a week and a quarter instead of 2 weeks, which is a lot of time to miss out. So I'm going to have to really grind over the next couple days to get all these videos in for you guys. If I somehow can't, because we're going on vacation Sunday, so if I can't, then I'll just delay it and finish filming on while I'm on vacation, which I don't really want to do. I'm going to be posting on vacation anyway, and I don't really want to double upload on vacation. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So I also realized I didn't really explain what we were doing today. So we are doing 4 reasons that Florida will beat Georgia and that Georgia will beat Florida. You know, I'm doing this for every single conference. I'm going to pick the 2 biggest games that decide it, and then I'm going to do 4 reasons why they will beat each other. So starting off with Florida, schedule placement. Now let me explain that to you guys. Schedule placement, I think desperation and having something to prove, a chip on your shoulder, is very important in college football. Let's take a flashback to last year. Georgia came in after a loss to LSU, and Florida came in on top of the world. Georgia had something to prove. They won a lot. You'll see a pattern occur like this a lot in college football if you really look back in the history. And Florida's going to be coming off of what I think will be a loss to LSU and a very close, ugly win against South Carolina, while Georgia will be coming off the top of the world against Kentucky in a huge blowout win. Not really a blowout win, but a convincing win. So Georgia will be kind of like Florida last year, and Florida will be kind of like Georgia. So I think Florida has everything to prove and a chip on their shoulder, and that's why I think Florida will beat Georgia. Now moving on to a reason Georgia will beat Florida. Florida's O-line. Florida has a bad O-line. That's Florida's one big question mark that I think could hold them back from being great in the 2019 college football season. And Georgia has a great defensive line and a great offensive line. They're really good in the trenches, so they could potentially win the trench battle here in this game. And we all know how important that is in SEC play. You know, Florida, from just a base starting line, Florida's offensive line is average, but if an injury happens, they're going to have to go immediately down to their freshmen. They do not have experienced backups. They don't have much depth at all at that position, while Georgia has a ton of depth at defensive line and offensive line. So I think Georgia has a great chance to win the trench battle here, and this game will occur kind of later on in the year, so Florida will probably be on some of their backups. So Georgia could really punish Florida with their offensive line. So heading back over to one of the reasons I think Florida will beat Georgia, Florida's 3-headed monster at the running back position. Now, Georgia's one weakness on their team is linebacker. They don't have a ton of depth at linebacker, and Florida will almost always have a fresh running back in there. So if Florida's offensive line can just provide them enough to get through to the second level where the linebackers are, that's where I think Florida will have their way with the Georgia defense. See, Georgia's linebackers are going to be tired and wanting a break, while Florida's running backs are going to be fresh and energetic. So if Florida can just make it to the next level, I think they can break off some really big runs in this game. So it's going to be interesting to see if Florida's O-line can just hold up and just long enough for the running backs to get to the linebacker level. And if they do get to the linebacker level, I think Florida will have their way with the Georgia linebackers because of their 3-headed monster position at running back. So heading on over to the Georgia side again, for the second reason I believe Georgia will beat Florida, it's they just have overall a better roster. You know, Dan Mullen's way of winning is to recruit 4 3-star players to get quantity over quality and then to develop it into quality. Kirby Smart's players is to get quality over quantity and have a really good roster, which I think he has this year. So from just a talent perspective, Georgia is the better team. This isn't factoring in all the other elements like coaching, staff, momentum, all the other elements. Just from a roster perspective, if you look at both rosters, Georgia is the most impressive. They have the more 5 stars. They have the more depth at most positions. and they just have players that have proven themselves, unlike Florida, who has a lot of young talent that has potential but hasn't proven themselves as much as Georgia has. So just from a roster perspective, Georgia is the better team. That's why I think Georgia has a great chance to beat Florida. So we head back over to the Florida side, and the third reason that I think Florida will beat Georgia is they have the better perimeter players. And even though the trenches are very, very important in these SEC games, a lot of SEC games come down to throwing it up and having your perimeter players make big plays. Florida has one of the best secondaries in all of the SEC, and in my opinion, the best wide receiver core in the SEC. I think they have the best perimeter squad with DBs and wide receivers combined in the SEC, in the all of SECs. Not to say that Georgia's isn't good, Florida's is just distinctly better. And, SEC could come down to just throwing it up and wanting your guy to make a play against the other guy, and that's why I think Florida could beat Georgia with their perimeter players. If Felipe Franks is in trouble, he can just throw it up and his guy will be better than the Georgia guy. That's why I think that Florida has the better perimeter players, and that's another reason that Florida will beat Georgia. So back over to the Georgia side, I'm going to say the third reason that Georgia will beat Florida is the Florida trash talk. Dan Mullen has done a lot of trash talk in the offseason. Coming from a Florida fan, I like that. It worked with Steve Spurrier. No reason it won't work with Dan Mullen. But still, they provide Georgia with the fuel to come out there and give their best. And Georgia at their best is really, really hard to beat. I think Georgia at their best is way better. I don't think Florida can beat Georgia if Georgia's at their best. So if they take this trash talk and use it to fuel them into putting all their effort into this game and making them the best Georgia team that they possibly can be, I don't see how Florida can beat Georgia when they're at their best. So if Georgia can use this to be at their best, I think Georgia will defeat Florida. The last reason that I believe Florida will defeat Georgia is Kirby Smart's lack of game management. Kirby Smart is a fantastic coach, one of the best in the conference. He can recruit on par with Nick Saban, which is huge. He can make up schemes. He can adjust beautifully. He can motivate his team. He's a great coach all around except game management. Game management means just kind of navigating your way throughout the game depending on the situation. Kirby Smart struggles to adjust to that aspect of the game. That's why they're not national champions, and that's why they're not two-time SEC champions. That's the reason Alabama has beaten them both times, because Kirby has struggled to game manage on par with Nick Saban. So I think Kirby, before he can be a great coach like Nick Saban, needs to learn how to be a better game manager, and Florida could take advantage of this if it's an extremely close game. So Kirby's game management could come back to haunt Georgia. So the last reason I think Georgia will beat Florida is a pretty simple one. It's momentum. So I mentioned earlier schedule placement for Florida. Georgia will come in here and on the top of the world, and Florida will come in here with a chip on their shoulder with something to prove. I said that could benefit Florida, but it could also help Georgia. Florida could come in this game with low self-esteem and lack of confidence, and Georgia could come in this game with all the confidence and tools in the world to defeat Georgia. Georgia could come in this game hyped up because the trash talk and have all the momentum needed to defeat Florida here, and Florida could end up just laying an egg and not filling up to the hype that has had them in this Georgia game. So Florida's lack of momentum and Georgia having all of it could end up being a sign that Georgia could defeat Florida later on in the year. So that was 4 reasons why Georgia and Florida will defeat each other. In the end, I think this game is going to be a very, very entertaining, close, emotional battle. Back and forth. Georgia will have the momentum for some points in the game. Florida will have momentum some points in the game. It'll be a rowdy crowd. It's going to be everything that makes college football great. Chaos, mistakes, excellence, just everything that you love about college football, I feel like will be jammed into the 3.5 hours of this game. I think this is the most important game in the SEC. It definitely will decide the SEC East, in my opinion. Not even my opinion. It is a fact that the winner of this game will be the SEC East champions. So in the end, I do think that Florida is going to be able to sneak out with a win because of schedule placement, the three-headed monster at running back, just Kirby's lack of game management, all this stuff combined, and the trash talk could actually hype up Florida and not Georgia. I think all this stuff combined in Florida's desperation by this point will be able to give Florida the win barely, though. I think it'd be by a walk-off field goal or a Hail Mary or something crazy like that to end off the game. I don't think there's a way that this isn't a one-possession game. This is going to be an incredible game to watch. You know, as a Florida fan, obviously I hope Florida wins, but there's a great chance that Georgia could come out victorious in this game. It's one of the hardest games to predict in the entire college football year. It's 50-50 for me. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to comment down your opinion on who you believe will win this game, and if you think my 4 points for each team was valid. But this is your boy Fanatic. Have an amazing day. Check out my other videos, and peace.